Okay, I'm Sandi Clark and I'm the Volunteer Centre Coordinator for Volunteer Centre Ryedale. Although the Volunteer Centre is based in Malton, it does cover the whole of Ryedale, which is why we're using a mobile volunteer centre to get to the other market towns as well. Loads of people have said to me in the past that they don't want to volunteer, but they don't really want to come to Malton to do it. And other people get the idea that if they come and volunteer in Malton or register as a volunteer in Malton, it means they are going to volunteer in Malton, and they basically usually want to volunteer in their own town. So basically we just thought we only have enough funding every now and then to be able to bring the pod out or to get into the other market towns, but that's why we're here today, to offer funding advice and oral voice advice and volunteering advice, and also we're here for our volunteer using organisations so that they can come down and tell us what volunteers they're actually looking for.
Is this the first time you've come to Kirkbymoorside with the Ryepod then?
No, we have been here before. Usually once a year we try and get here in the summer and catch a few people walking by.
So tell us about volunteering in Kirkbymoorside and the opportunities that there are.
In Kirkbymoorside there are lots and lots of volunteer using organisations. Some are branches of larger things like Cancer Care or Carers Resource, who has recently moved here from Pickering. Carers Support, have recently moved here from Pickering, and they're down Tinley Garth now. So obviously they're looking for volunteers, and what they do is they have volunteers that may be, if you've got someone who's ill and the carer, their regular carer maybe wants to go and have their hair done, or if it's a gentleman, go to the barber's or whatever, then Carers Support would supply a volunteer to sit with the person who is the invalid or elderly, to give that person a little bit of respite. So, but it could be anything. It could be somebody to do shopping, or it could be based on anything. But Carers Support, very, very good local organisation. Obviously, you've got your charity shops. They always need support and people to raise funds. I don't mean tin rattling. Sometimes it's that. Sometimes it's having an event to raise money, sort of like with sometimes tombola or selling produce, whatever, but that's always very valuable for whichever charity it's for. But there are quite a few larger charities in the area, like Age Concern and St Catherine's Hospice. They always need people. But then you've got the smaller ones as well.
So would you say Ryedale's got a good range of volunteering opportunities for people of all ages, wanting different things?
We've got hundreds of volunteering opportunities on our database. We work through Volunteering England, so they're on a website called doit.org, so people can have a look at Ryedale opportunities without coming to me, if they're just having a sort of a little glance at them before they decide what they want to volunteer to do. And then generally people will get in touch with me and for me to do the introduction, because that is the biggest step normally for the would-be volunteer to actually meet up with the organisation, and I sort of am the conduit there.
So you go with them on there?
I can go with them if they're feeling particularly nervous, or if they don't have the means to get to where they need to get to, or I can make the introduction and the organisation will get in touch with the new volunteer.
Now, lots of people come to volunteering for lots of different reasons. Perhaps you could tell us about some examples of volunteers who have come to you and have gone on and made a real success of their volunteering.
If we start with younger people, sometimes when people haven't done so well in school, they have maybe not even done so well in college, they come to volunteering in order to add different experiences onto their CV, and through that gain experience and confidence in themselves to be able to go on and be interviewed and very often get employment. Sometimes it's people who have left work for health reasons, maybe just getting back into work, or only want to do a few hours and lead themselves back into it gently. Sometimes people who have been unemployed for a long time and again want to upskill or go into a completely different direction. It's a softer way of going into it, volunteering. You don't have to go if you don't want to. So if you're having a particularly bad day, or you've got pressures at home or other things you must do, you don't have to turn up. And that way they can do as little or as much as they choose, as and when they choose. And that's the difference really, with, apart from the fact that you don't actually get paid. But that's the difference, is that there is a laid back attitude to it, though we do expect our volunteers to be reliable, because it's no good for the organisation if you've got somebody who's going to let them down. So that's basically where we do all the weeding out for our organisations, and we do have quite a robust policy whereby if they're not happy or the volunteer's not happy, they can both come back to me and I can deal with one or the other of the problems. But then again, we have people who are retired, but lots of people retire fairly early nowadays and have a wealth of skills to offer. And that's brilliant, because they can bring everything from accountancy to childcare. They've done the whole gamut of things, and it's a shame to lose those skills. And very often, when they're volunteering, they're actually training others at the same time. Very, very valuable people.
What would you say about somebody who's feeling particularly nervous about going and volunteering? Perhaps they have been out of work, or perhaps they've been looking after children for several years. What would you say to them if they're holding themselves back from having a go?
Well, what we tend to do with that is we would encourage them to volunteer with a friend, so that they're not going in sort of cold, or I would go with them to visit a particular organisation as an observer, so that they actually know the other people. Very often quite a few people volunteer at the same place. It's very rare to be the only volunteer. And once you get to know other people that are actually volunteering there, then it's not such a big step. But if people are really nervous, then I do sort of, we do a little, it's basically called confidence and assertiveness, and I can run through that with them in my office before they ever go out. So we can do a little bit of training between ourselves and get over the biggest of the hurdles. But at the end of the day, the biggest leap is for them. We can't do that for them. But and obviously they know that if they don't like the situation they've been placed in, they don't have to go back. We can find them something else. And because the database allows us to know quite a lot about the person before they're ever placed, we hope, and most often do, a bespoke service. So if you were to come to me and tell me what your interests are, what your work experience is so far, a little bit about yourself, then I can work out where I think you'll fit. And usually we can find something to suit somebody's interests, so they already feel part of it because they have a little knowledge of what goes on. So we don't drop anybody cold into a nightmare situation that's brand new to them. So, we do try and make sure that it's what they actually want.
Now, we're obviously in a rural area here, and some of these volunteering opportunities that people might be interested in might be not in the town in which they live, and so there's travelling costs involved. Do any organisations offer to pay for travelling costs?
Most do. Most organisations will pay travel or any expenses incurred. Volunteering shouldn't cost anybody anything, because the time that they're giving is a very valuable asset, and that should be the least, or the most it costs them is their time. We would expect all organisations to cover someone's expenses, and if they're not prepared to do that, they have to say that at the outset, and then the volunteer can decide whether they go forward or not.
And what about accreditation? Are there any volunteering placements which offer any kind of accreditation for the work that they're doing?
Yes, but we do that at RVA. We actually do run courses from Hull University at Scarborough, and they can pick up accreditation in that. So, you know, several times during the year we'll put maybe a child protection course on or counselling, and they're free, you know, to our volunteers, and you know, they can pick up accreditation that way. But of course, it's not when they're volunteering, they can very often upskill to the point where they can be given a certification for the work they're doing. So it's, you know, yeah, they can.
So, as well as Ryedale, your knowledge of Ryedale, what about young people who might be thinking of taking some time off, a gap year? Do you have resources within your offices which might help them plan doing any volunteering work abroad, or would you?
No, not really. We do have VSO information in, you know, obviously in the office, and also Camp America. So we can, if they want to do something like that or take on something like that, we have all the information, but we don't coordinate it from our office. We just would signpost them to the people that will help them.
And finally, volunteering. Sum it up, why it's good for people to get involved and be a volunteer.
Wow. Well, it enriches their life. I know it does that. It's absolutely essential for the community. And I just have a little phrase that I use all the time, which is that, you know, volunteers are don't go unpaid because they're worthless. It's because they're absolutely without value. It's invaluable. You know, you just can't. Without volunteers, I think the whole society would crumble, and they really, really are valuable people.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.